Jonathan Spire, great to be with you. So much is happening in the Middle East, especially right now when the focus is on Iran. What's your analysis right now of the situation there inside Iran and you know, the wider implications?
First of all, I think it is fair to say, and the best informed Iran analysts are saying, that the Islamic Republic of Iran has just been engaged against the most serious discontent from its people that it has experienced at any time since the Islamic Republic was born in 1979. This level of frustration and anger on the streets has not been witnessed before, and we have witnessed also there have been instances of armed resistance against the regime in peripheral parts of the country, especially in the Kurdish parts of Iran. So this is very, very serious indeed. Having said that, it's been very clear the strategy that the regime has chosen to adopt against the protests, and as of now at least, it appears, at least for now, that this strategy may have worked. And the strategy was, as we saw in recent days, to cut the country off from the internet, to cut it off from all communication, and then effectively to go to war against the demonstrators, to use live ammunition to try to drive the protests by sheer terror off the streets of the cities of Iran. And the figures we're now beginning to hear, beginning to seep out of the country, that maybe up to 16 or 17,000 people may have been killed by their own government in Iran in recent days, speak for themselves. That's a very, very brutal strategy, to put it mildly. It appears, though, to have been a strategy which, for now at least, may have been effective in the sense that the numbers of the demonstrations and the intensity of the demonstrations appear, for now, to have died down. So I think there's two things to understand from this. One is that, yeah, in the short term at least, sheer terror when used against a largely unarmed population can work. But in the longer term, what this shows us, I think, is the absolute bankruptcy of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has absolutely no solutions for any of the urgent issues facing Iranians with regard to the devaluation of the currency, with regard to the water crisis and so on, and therefore is reduced in a way to simply going to war against its own population in order to continue ruling over there by naked coercion, so to speak. And I think that's where things currently stand.
Yeah. And in the meantime, the USS Abraham Lincoln task force is on its way. F-15s are coming into the region. It looks like President Trump has the option of a military strike. What do you think? Could it work?
Well, it can certainly work in the sense that the United States, has the most powerful military machine currently available to humanity, and that is, at the disposal of the President of the United States should he choose to use it. He could certainly inflict very great damage on the Iranian regime. He could, should he wish to do so, probably be in a position to take out its leader, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. I think the problem is, and I suspect that this may be the reason why President Trump has not yet given the order, the problem is that it's one thing to kill this or that individual or to destroy this or that building from the air. It's a much more complicated matter to bring down a regime from the air. In fact, if we think of history, in spite of the kind of colossal and awesome gatherings of air power that we can think of in the course of the last century, it's hard to think of an example where a regime was brought down purely as a result of air power. I suppose we might say that Imperial Japan was, after the use of the atomic bombs in 1945. But certainly in terms of the kind of weight of magnitude of force that could plausibly be brought to bear now, it's hard to think of a way that the Iranian regime could quickly be destroyed and deposed by the result of the application of United States air power. I think as a result of that, maybe President Trump has thought carefully about this, because he, I think, probably wants a quick victory. He wants to have a decisive achievement, and it's not quite clear, at least to me, if that can be done purely by the use of air power. I think that the use of United States air power will be massively positive and useful in the Iranian context, but I suspect that at the end of the day, it will have to be the Iranian people themselves who bring down the regime, short of somebody sending ground forces to Tehran, which of course nobody is planning to do. Which means I think that the judicious use of United States and Western air power in the end will need to be used in conjunction with continued unrest on the ground from Iran and the creation of a real fighting opposition force on the ground in Iran. That's a complicated business, and I'm not quite sure if the West or the United States is currently looking to get into that business. And I think we're maybe a little bit around that dilemma. But I should add that, we know that President Trump has shown judicious use of the information space in the past. He's been happy to lull the other side into a false sense of security and then sometimes strike, So it's very possible that's what's happening now as well. And I guess we're going to find out in the days ahead.
We will see. I mean, everybody's watching and waiting to see when the USS Abraham gets into the region and what may happen there in conjunction with the protesters and the U.S. Jonathan Spire, great to be with you. Thanks for your analysis.
Thanks, Chris.